I want the gig economy. I want my time. I want work-life balance. I'm not mocking you because I want exactly what you're just wanting to. But in a different point of view, I guess. But what can you address when it comes to that? You know, the pros, cons, good, bad, so that the youngsters, I'm not discouraging you from doing that. I want you to go in with eyes wide open to understand exactly what you're getting into.
Okay, welcome everybody to another episode of GMT8. Today we have Soo Hoo. He is the founding president of the Malaysian Association of Professional Trainers and Coaches, also known as MAPTaC. Soo Hoo is a trainer true and true since 2007 in the area of sales, leadership, and entrepreneurship. In recognition of his achievements and contributions, he was awarded, plenty of awards.
I was starting to feel more and more shy. Blushing already.
But he's humble enough for me, like, how do you want me to say your name? Temperature, Soo. I'm like, I like that. So the temperature is going to rise right now. We're going to put you in the hot seat and ask you questions and make you sweat.
I'm already sweating, man.
Yeah, so glad to have you together with us. You know, being in the industry since 2007, you must have seen, you know, a lot of shifts, you know, within the corporates and you know, with the audiences that you've dealt with. You know, could you share with us what are the most significant changes that you've noticed in the training landscape and the topics? Yeah.
Thank you for asking that. Actually, I started with retail program, individuals in 2007, 2008, mortgage reduction and stuff like that. So it was very much the public and moving along with the public. But in 2012, I pivoted entirely into corporate.
Right.
And what I realized is the significant difference between how corporate training is done in Malaysia and how the people development industry is in Malaysia in general. When I speak to the different trainers from people development industry, they can be like, wow, world class and you know, but when they go into corporate in Malaysia, they don't fit. The style doesn't fit. And similarly, when I talk to the top corporate trainers in Malaysia and I bring them into the public world, again, the style don't fit. So it was a very vast difference. But what I noticed in the last 2-3 years, because of the pandemic, there is going to be a very significant merger of these two styles. Because right now we are seeing a rise of small, medium enterprises, a lot of small companies, a lot of micro companies. You know, I think one of the latest government statistics says 72% of Malaysians don't want to further their studies anymore. You know, they want to go straight into, you know, the working world or the entrepreneurial world, which means that as this group, as these entrepreneurs and as these youngsters continue to grow and come into the market, we are going to see a corporate training program having to blend the marketing aspects of people development industry, going direct to the CEOs or the so-called CEOs, you know, they may have 2 or 3 employees, but so it's going straight into the micro entrepreneurs, the small entrepreneurs. At the same time, because HRDC has expanded the scope of their levy, companies with 10 employees and above have to contribute to HRDC already.
Yep.
Which means that we are going to see these two parts, the corporate sort of income and the corporate sort of programs coming into small, medium enterprises. So it's going to be quite an interesting experience to see how it's going to play out in the next 1-2 years. At the same time, when we see a lot of the Zoomers coming into the workforce, they don't want knowledge, you know. Like in the corporate world, in the corporate training world, a lot of the trainers are giving knowledge.
Right.
They're giving skills. But with the Zoomers, it's like, my AI knows a lot more than you. My AI can find a lot more things faster than you. So if you don't change how you are training me, I'm not going to be, you know, actively participating. I'm going to be disassociated. So we're going to see a lot of changes coming, especially next year.
Yeah. And so you know, for those of you who don't know what HRDC is, it's basically the Human Resources Development Corporation of Malaysia.
Yep.
So it's interesting what you shared in terms of the statistics of a lot of, you know, new people, right? In the market right now, they are looking to go directly into the workforce rather than continuing their studies. So, do you find that this will create a more challenging environment in terms of like for corporates to find more qualified people? And you mentioned a lot of these people are more interested in entrepreneurship. So, is hiring going to be a problem?
Hiring is already a problem. It is already a problem, especially among the entry-level positions. Corporations are finding it hard to find good graduates. In the immediate future, the situation may not be that dire yet, because there's still a lot of graduates coming out from those doing as their degree 3 years back, 2 years back. There's still quite a significant number that's coming out. But give it another 3 years, 4 years,
right.
You're going to see a massive reduction in that number. We are already seeing fresh grads. There are less and less fresh grads available for positions. They are becoming a little bit more demanding as well. And they have a little bit higher expectation for their entry-level positions, right? So a lot of corporations, I was talking to one client, and they were sharing that their annual budget was only 80% utilized. So I was like, "Whoa, that's good. Well, from a finance perspective, you guys are doing very well."
Yeah.
And they are from a finance perspective, but the reason why they were spending so little is because they couldn't hire. So they anticipated to renovate an entire floor of the office to cater for incoming employees.
No,
there's not enough employees to justify renovating the building, the floor.
Right.
They don't have enough new hires to justify buying new laptops and equipment, which they foresee if this continues, it's going to be hard for them to service their customers, because they are a shared services center.
Right.
And therefore, if they don't have enough manpower, they can't supply the services to their clients. So that's going to be a problem.
I'm interested to go back to what you said earlier. The younger generation talking about my AI can do better than you, and lack of interest in gaining new knowledge. How do you address stuff like that? Because you look at my gray hair, the generation I came from. So my generation was hungry for knowledge constantly, and we weren't reliant on a device to give us information dead on the spot. We had to know it. So how do you address that?
And actually, that's also one of the major challenges in terms of organization when it comes to conflict management among the different generations, because the older generation value knowledge. They value their experience, they value their knowledge, and the fact that they are more knowledgeable, they tend to hold on to that. You need to know what I know in order for you to do what I can do. And the old belief of I eat salt more than you eat rice, it doesn't sit in with the Zoomers at all. Right. Because with a tap of their thumb, they're able to access 1,000 different people's knowledge.
Yep.
So I see among the younger generation, they are not so engaged with the older mindset of you needing to have the knowledge,
right?
Because they don't need the knowledge. And what we foresee happening in the people development industry is no longer an impartation of knowledge or even an impartation of skills, but rather an impartation of the skill to leverage on AI to do the job. So, for example, I can't teach copywriting anymore because the AI can write a better copy than I do. But I can teach you how to prompt the AI to give you a better copy.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think that major shift in how things are going to be done is going to be significant next year.
I'm laughing because I remember my children. I've got teenagers, and they say, "Why do I have to learn math? I got calculator." And I'm like, I don't know how to answer that. It was like, okay. Well, it's good to know in case calculator breaks. That's the only answer.
So talking about calculator breaking, right? So as the new generation comes into the market, they are embracing AI, and then learning how to prompt, learning how to effectively ask questions and direct, right? So Now, do you see a potential problem where what if the calculator breaks? What if the AI breaks, right? The core skills of copywriting, for example, do you see it as potentially getting lost and only stuck to a very small niche of people eventually?
It's going to be very much like food when fast food came out. Imagine all the burger Ramly, right? They used to be this burger, that burger. And then at one time when McDonald's came out, everybody moved to fast food, right? And then now, the individualized stalls, they have to create special niche for themselves, the burger Malele lah, the dirty burger lah. So each and every one of them are starting to customize. And that's the direction of how skills is going to go.
Right.
Right now, it's moving into a more automated, a more industrialized manner, a more standardized, going to automation and AI and all of this. But after this period, and when the majority of people have adopted it, it's going to now come back to niche. I will draw your logo for you. I will write your contract for you, But that's going to take some time. That's going to take easily another about 5 to 10 years, easy.
But my thing for the younger generation is not that the knowledge is at your fingertips, but the ability to adapt the knowledge to what you need to do. So
Correct.
how do you, because you do a training, how do you impart to them and explain to them it's not the knowledge. Yes, you got more knowledge than me, but do you know how to use the knowledge you have?
Correct. So that's actually the key. The key is to teach the younger generation how to use the technology to produce the result. Right now, it's a lot of the young generation are seeing this. The reason why you older people, and I'm among the older people, you older people, the reason why you are not adopting the technology is because you don't know how, which is somewhat true, right? Somewhat. Yeah, I'll give you a dad bread moment. My son wrote his own computer game,
Right.
without any classes, self-taught when he was 9.
Wow.
But he didn't write. So that's why I was like, he wrote the computer game on his own, but he didn't. He wrote it onto the prompt.
Yes.
And the prompt gave him the code, and then he put the code in, and realizing what are the bugs, he put in the bugs in the code, and the code will fix for him. So he's not learning how to write the computer program, but he's learned how to use the computer, the AI in the computer, to write the computer program for him.
Correct.
So I think that's the direction that we are going to see people development in the next 3 to 5 years. If we don't adopt that fast,
Yeah.
Malaysia is going to be in trouble.
And I see that, with this trend of constant digitization, and as we let I suppose let go of our knowledge, right, to be reliant on AI and the huge database out there, is that I feel that humanity is at the point to where there's that potential of losing the knowledge, losing the technology, right? I'm sure throughout history, throughout different civilizations, technologies are lost, discoveries are lost. And I can only imagine with the dawn of the AI age, as information is going into the ether, into the internet, the potential for catastrophic loss of knowledge is huge. But
One of the things I see is that because it's centralized,
Right.
you are looking at, we are centralizing skill sets. We are centralizing knowledge. Everything's up in the cloud. And because of the pandemic, organizations are realizing that I don't have to hire the top Singaporean to work in Singapore. I don't have to hire the top US, American to work in Singapore. I can hire somebody from Kenya, who has to stay back to take care of the parents, and he can still report to me in Singapore and do the work, right? So there's a lot of centralization of skill set and decentralization of people.
Right.
We are actually in very interesting times. I was in recently, and one of the dean was sharing about HR 5.0 and IR 5.0, where it's, I think for the first time we're seeing such a fast transition because of the 3 years of pandemic. We're transitioning from IR4, where it's automation,
Yep.
into customization, humanization of technology. understanding the human interface that is required in the automated world.
Right,
You know,
right.
So we're starting to see that as well. But I don't think, just like with IR4, it's going to take some time for it to catch on. We're seeing a lot of automation, we're seeing a lot of centralization of knowledge, but we're also seeing a lot of decentralization of workforce. What that means is, as much as one central database can be lost, but the decentralized workforce decentralizes the risk.
Understand? It's blockchain of knowledge. It's the blockchain of knowledge.
Yeah, and going to the workforce, right? The new workforce, one of the things you mentioned was the budget was underutilized for one of the clients by 20%, and they didn't go ahead with renovating it, right? So after, of course, with the pandemic, corporates, companies were pushed to embrace remote working, right? How is your sense of the market right now? Are people going back to the office spaces, or are they being really more demanding in terms of that flexibility?
So I've been involved in the Malaysia Productivity Corporation under the Professional Services Nexus for the last now 4th year. What I've noticed is during the first MCO in Malaysia, productivity really went down. But by the second and third MCO, the workforce already adapted to how to work from home.
Correct.
The infrastructure is there, the mindset is there. Malaysian productivity today, including work from home, is actually better than what we were doing pre-pandemic. And a lot of my clients ask me, "Hey, how come you're quite true? I seem to be able to do more." And I always joke with them, the reason is because we're very big factories. From one person's workspace, walking to the toilet, you have 10 different checkpoints. You have to stop and ask for lunch, right? So by the time you get to the toilet, you come back, it's 30 minutes gone, So we feel that work from home is going to be something that is a staple in the workforce in Asia.
But work from home, the generation before my generation, which is X, X embrace, which accept both sides, are not so into it. So how do you speak to the higher level and explain the importance of it and what the benefits of it?
I think actually right now, most of the X are already in senior management.
Yeah.
They are looking at the numbers. Last year, they may be very resistant. But this year, I think there's a lot of changes because most of the annual budget has been closed for 2022, 2023.
Yep.
And productivity numbers have increased during the pandemic. Of course, there are some, like hardcore manufacturing work that cannot be outsourced. I cannot, or construction, I cannot like stand the scaffolding to your house and get you to build it, right? But, apart from those, a lot of the paperwork, a lot of the administrative work, a lot of the shared services work, are already in the process of either converting entirely to an AI-based model, or a work from home model. Even R&D in many of our factories here, the R&D departments are decentralizing to work from home. They only go back to the office to do the testing, and then they do all their meetings. Everything is from home. Singapore is going to be quite hard hit actually, because a lot of the expats don't have to work from Singapore. They can actually work from Langkawi and Bali and Pattaya and Phuket, and they're still drawing an expat salary, right? On top, for the landlords in Singapore, they're also starting to realize the talents don't have to take such a big space anymore, because a lot of people are working from home. I only need a smaller office for my regional HQ, so to speak, right?
Right.
So we're going to start to see a lot of that kind of movement, decentralizing the workforce out throughout the country, throughout the region, rather than being centralized in certain places. On top of that, if I'm in Singapore and I'm running a business in Singapore, I can hire the top Cambodian to stay in Cambodia, paid in Cambodian or US dollar in Cambodian range, and come to Singapore only twice a month for meetings.
And you can get the best Cambodian,
right? And they don't have to leave their home for long. They can be with their family. We're going to start to see a lot more of that kind of stuff happening.
Which is a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing.
I think it's a good thing.
Like so, anyone in Singapore wanna, anyway.
Then go some property.
Okay. Come on, together. No, we come in as a package. But you see the crazy part about decentralizing and moving out and that the possibilities are endless, huge, endless. Anyone has the possibility, but it's still not seen to people. The younger generation only still sees, I want to work from home, but for a company that's within the region, they don't understand that now all of a sudden, if you gain more knowledge and you grow with knowledge, you can touch the world. So how do you impart that kind of like urgency to the kids?
Okay, so the urgency actually comes from parents' fault.
I know.
Parents.
Faster.
All right, parents issue. So one of the main challenges a lot of organizations are facing is because parents don't see the possibilities yet. So the kids are not open to explore those. Right. Imagine if today you go home and you tell your parents that I'm found a new job and I'm going to work in Australia. A lot of parents are
so far away. You leave me behind.
Yeah. So I think that's going to do a lot of changes, especially in the next 1-2 years.
Right.
Universities are facing a huge problem as well because for the last 3 years, the kids have been at home. So now they cannot convince their parents why they should send their kids to the campuses. Because the last 3 years they've been telling their parents, it's the same, study from home is the same. And it's the same for work. We're going to see that.
Right.
Among the older Gen Y and the Gen X, we don't see the possibilities yet. We don't see the prevalence of it yet. But among the younger generation, there's a high prevalence of two things. Number one, micro entrepreneurship, which means that they might apply for a job, but what they are going to ask for is ownership of their role. So it's going to be like, okay, I can do all of this. Why don't you just hire me as a freelancer, hire me as a contractor,
right?
Rather than a typical workforce model. So I think that is going to be rising. The other one will be a lot of freelancer, desk kind of work where a person can be in Terengganu and doing design work for corporations in KL.
Right.
Yeah. So I think those are going to be increasing. If I put out an ad today and look for an entry-level admin or clerical person, it's almost impossible to find a good one.
Right.
Almost impossible.
Right. You tried. I like that. I tried. Hey, but the whole subject about the gig economy and the youngsters wanting that, I think that is amazing because I think that's what a lot of youngsters want, that freedom to work from home. Yeah. But we are going to discuss that right after this little break that we're going to get. Okay, so stay tuned.
Groove Asia, the world's #1 digital marketing software platform and fastest growing entrepreneurship community, is now free for life. Your complete digital products and services online sales system. All the tools you want to run your internet business. Everything you need to sell products and services online. No credit card, zero fees. It's just free. Discover the new better way to start an online business, build websites, and sell digital products. Create a full website with unlimited products and funnels with free hosting, subdomain, and custom domain capability. And with more integrations so you can automate your business. It's truly the last online sales system you will ever need. Save thousands a month with free lifetime access to the top most powerful apps in the industry, including the #1 leading page and funnel building platform in the world with thousands of brand new members making a switch over every single day. Plus, get free access to our private community, free live training, and free affiliate marketing business opportunity. Discover how to get started for free, secure your free lifetime membership today, and access your free software, training, and bonuses right now. Free for a limited time, only at grooveasia.ca.
All right, we're back after that short word from our sponsor, which was Chinyu. No, just kidding. Anyway, back to the gig economy. That's what all youngsters want now. I want the gig economy. I want my time. I want work-life balance. I'm not mocking you because I want exactly what you just wanting to. But in a different point of view, I guess. But what can you address when it comes to that? You know, the pros, cons, good, bad, so that the youngsters, I'm not discouraging you from doing that. I want you to go in with eyes wide open to understand exactly what you're getting into.
I think I will address it from the other angle.
Okay.
Corporations used to be very resistant to people having a second job, having their own business. But what we are seeing now are companies who are openly encouraging and training their young employees to be entrepreneurs, to be thinking like entrepreneurs. Maybe not to be an entrepreneur themselves, but to think like an entrepreneur.
Right.
Because a lot of companies realize that if a manager can think of their department as a business entity,
Yep.
They will resolve all their creative thinking decision making all of the issues are resolved. In fact, if you look at the story of Haier buying over GE, then this is even pre-pandemic. I think this is in 2017 or 2018. What Haier did was converting all the employees into micro entrepreneurs. They fired all of the employees and they converted them into over 1,000 micro companies for them to individually manage their team, manage their department as a company on their own. And that drove their innovation, that drove their passion,
Right.
that drove so much of their productivity, and they grew tremendously.
It sounds like, you know, when you empower your workforce to have skin in the game,
Yes.
essentially, right?
Yeah.
They are more
Yeah.
invested into it.
Correct. So, a lot of times companies ask their trainers like myself to train them on, how to be more, have more accountability, have more ownership. I give them ownership lah.
Simple.
Simple lah.
Simple.
The answer is right there.
So, in other words, what you're telling me now, these micro entrepreneurs, is basically our version of jack of all trades, lah.
More like actually organizations, instead of treating a manager as a manager,
Right.
you might be treating a manager as a vendor, and
A CEO of the department.
of that department, correct. And the managers, the young people, they like that kind of autonomy as well.
Right.
They can decide what they want to do with the space. They can decide who they want to hire, what they want to do, how they want to train, how they want to develop, all within the confines of the larger organization, of course. And any IP that is produced by all the micro entrepreneurs belong to the large corporation anyway. Productivity belongs to large corporation anyway. And you actually, cut down a lot of the bureaucratic layers as well. So it's going to solve a lot of problems. It's going to solve a lot of, even the Gen Y don't want to work. Yeah, don't work. Now, here's your own job. You can be a solopreneur, a freelancer, you're a graphic designer. In old corporate terms, we call it independent contributor.
Yes.
But now we hire you as a contractor. Saves my EPF, saves my SOXO, saves my
Correct.
benefits.
No need to pay for HRDC.
Hey, that's my bread and butter, man.
Correct. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't hire trainers to train these entrepreneurs, because they don't know how to manage the P&Ls and all that. They're just focused in their business. Gee,
Yeah.
I'm helping you there. Covered, good cover. Everybody okay, let's go.
So pre-pandemic, I think we've definitely heard a lot about intrapreneurship, right? It was a thing back then. So right now, it's interesting to hear that there are corporations out there embracing actual entrepreneurship within that. What do you see are the key potential challenges? I mean, we see that the results are there, but what are the challenges in terms of implementing this sort of model?
Well, first of all, you still need a lot of buy-in, a lot of buy-in from every level. Imagine a 40-year-old or even, a slightly older. Imagine a 55-year-old, 57 years old, a bit more to retirement age,
Yes.
right? And then suddenly the company says, okay, we're going to go into this entrepreneurship model and I'm going to fire everyone, including you. You're going to have a lot of pushback. So we don't see that happening like super fast, but we will see a slow transition.
Yep.
We'll see a lot more flexible working arrangements coming out from major corporations. Instead of everybody is just for hire as an employee, we may start to see a lot more youngsters demanding for work from home, and instead of being offered a job, they may be offered a contract, right? A 3-year contract, a 2-year contract of services, and based on the KPI, you know, you will still have your reporting lines, just as if you're working. It's just that you are considered an external vendor. So we might see a lot more of that happening soon, rather than straight up like every company is going to become an entrepreneur model.
The old guy in me got a question, because the old guy in me always, you know, when we were studying, and a lot of people say go into a
Major corporation.
because there is opportunity of growth to climb and stuff like that. Where's the growth here? I'm not saying there isn't. I just can't see it. So
Okay.
where's the growth here?
The growth is, now I'm a vendor for, let's say, ABC company.
Correct.
And I'm doing a very good job for ABC company. Next year I might lobby for GCE company.
But aren't I? Boleh.
So I'm growing. Depends on the arrangement that's given.
Right.
I'm growing my department as a company. So I'll give you an example. Actually, we deployed that. We deployed this in one of the training companies for a call center back in 2014 to 2016. Instead of building the department as an in-house department,
Okay.
we started to look at it from an external vendor perspective.
Right.
So for all purposes and intent, my corporate position will be head of training, but my contract of services is still as an external vendor. So I act as an external vendor to groom the department, grow the department, meet the department KPI, you know, but I'm still an external vendor. And what that means is, and we were at that juncture, we were in negotiations of taking out the whole department as an external company, because we can also be registered as a vendor for other people within the contact center industry. Because effectively that's what we do. We train people. And if other corporations, smaller companies, feel that our training is of value to them, our trainers, which are HRDC certified trainers, can actually go over there and train those trainers under our umbrella, so to speak. And there are already in place now companies with the training arm set up as an external academy, providing training services to friendly competitors.
Interesting. And I think with that part about friendly competitors, right? So I would imagine that this model, to a certain extent, addressing on growth, you know, does hit a limit if that certain department or that entity is producing something that's supposed to be more like IP sensitive and all that.
Then definitely you can't use the same IP for other companies.
Right.
But if, let's say, I'm doing research and development and I produce ABC 1, 2, 3 IPs for company A, and if my R&D guys are very good, another company might acquire me and my department to do R&D for them. So in the traditional sense, they will hire us individually over, right? Sort of like poaching the team over.
Right.
But now, instead of poaching the team over, they will be buying the team from the main company. So if you think about it from that perspective, it is in the interest of the main company to ensure that every single subsidiary that they have is doing well.
It's like football lah. You know, the football player very
you take
good.
the player,
I buy the player
lah.
lah. The club is still the same.
Then the club benefits, because some clubs are designed to just produce good players, right?
Correct.
Then people will keep buying lah. Then they take in the new ones. Some more.
So you look for the accounting Messi lah. Oh, Messi from accounting and Ronaldo
from high jump.
I like that.
So I think this kind of models are going to open up a lot of changes for the country.
So as we see more of these new models coming in picture, right? You know, you share and train a lot about leadership as well. So what are the new skill sets of a modern day leader in the current environment we're in?
I think with leadership and with people, it's always the same. Are you serving your team, or are you expecting the team to serve you? You know, I think it still goes back to that serving the team, because if you serve your team, eventually your team will also do better.
Correct.
And we are seeing that kind of human touch a lot more, playing a bigger role now than before. You see, just like we were talking about AI
Yeah.
doing everything, right? In the past, as a trainer, if I talk about myself a lot, participants are going to be turned off. It's like, trainer always talk about himself only. But today, with all the knowledge that they have, they don't want me to talk about knowledge. They want me to share about when I faced that challenge, how did I feel? And they want to feel how I felt and how I overcome that feeling, so that in future, they can learn from that experience that I have. So they don't want to just learn the experience. They want to learn how did I overcome that fear? How did I overcome that pain? How did I overcome that grief? They are a lot more connected to those kind of portion,
Right.
than it is about, okay, give me knowledge, give me knowledge, give me knowledge, give me knowledge.
Is that more towards the how? Is that more towards the why? What does that address?
Oh, that's a very good question. That's more towards probably the why of doing things.
Which is important. I'm all for whys. How's oh god, copycats everywhere. Why's okay.
I think
cool.
they're looking for that connection. They're looking for that relationship. They're looking for that sincerity of helping them and serving them. You know, and I think that scares the older generation. Actually.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I feel there's still a lot of gap between the X and Boomer and the Zoomer.
Right.
Because it's like, I value knowledge, and all I have is knowledge. If you take away my knowledge, I have nothing left to lead the organization. So I think that is a very scary thought for a lot of them.
And I like what you highlighted in terms of now modern day leaders. It's not about the knowledge or the how to, but rather it's that emotional connection, right? You touch a lot about the emotional, not only the emotional connection, but the emotional journey that the individuals, that the team members will go through, anticipating it, and then you're telling them how do you manage it and overcome it. So, you know, you also come from a background of neuro-linguistic programming, right? So with the different generations that you see right now, as the new generation comes in, they are very much in the online and virtual world. That's where their interactions exist, right? How do you see the communication between the different generations right now within organizations?
I can laugh at that too.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
That one is a very, very tricky thing, because the older generation do not understand the lack of physical connection among the younger generation, and the younger generation do not understand why everything also must meet face to face. Everything also must call. You know, just send me a text will do, ma. You just have to send a text across to me. I will do what is needed.
Okay.
Why do you need to physically sit down and talk? You know, and I think that is something that we haven't really figured out a way to resolve yet.
Right. Let's. It's. I know it's a tough thing, but I'm going to do something. I'm going to put you on the spot. I want you to look at the camera. Now you're talking to the old people. About the young people, so that they understand. Okay, just this for old people only. After that, I'm going to let you talk to the young people. So maybe we find a gap there. Go. Old people only.
So for the older generation, I think don't worry whether the younger generation is going to listen to you or you know, take over your role. I think they value your experience. They value your journey, provided they feel that you understand them. I think that's the key. They must feel that you understand them.
Got not?
Yeah.
Heard Took down notes Okay. Now young people. Please talk to the young people. Young people, please listen.
For the young people, please understand that the older generation are actually behaving how they are out of fear more than it is out of like, you know, any other emotion. I feel, you know, it's a maybe also I'm also getting older lah. A lot of the older generation, I think, have come to a point where the world scares them sometimes. You know how the changes that's happening in the last 1-2 years, especially because of the pandemic, everything was accelerated. All the development was accelerated, and I think that scares a lot of people.
And if you were to encapsulate the differences in values between the older generation and the newer generation right now, what's the top value of the older generation versus the newer generation in your mind?
I think I'll address it from the needs perspective rather than the values perspective. I think the values are the same across older or younger generation. But the older generation, let's talk about like baby boomers, for example. Their primary focus in terms of needs are always on the physiological needs, on the safety needs first. So a lot of things that they do, a lot of decisions that they make is based on whether you'll keep me safe, whether you'll provide me food. And similarly, when they motivate and lead other people, they will offer or threaten to take away physiological needs and safety needs. Come the Gen X, which is most of the senior management today, the focus moved from safe physiological and safety to safety and connection. So you'll find a lot of the Gen X focusing on, like Zumba class, family days, team bonding experiences,
Correct.
and so forth, right? Moving into the mid management, the Gen Y in mid management, their focus is on connection and their focus is on personal development. So you'll find a lot of achievement orientation, a lot of goal orientation. At the same time, there's still a lot of connection required as well. But come to the Zoomers, their focus more is in giving back, is in legacy building, is in making an impact. It's a lot in personal development and training and learning and growth. So if you look at a lot of the Gen Z, the Zoomers, many of them, they join or leave organizations because it offers them a place to learn. It offers them a place where their voice is heard, Very often you find complaints from HR is people just leaving their job among the young generation, not telling why, or they can take unpaid leave just to go and protest or do something like that, where it's unheard of in the older generation because the needs are different.
And yeah, it's interesting what you said, this whole phenomena of quiet quitting. I think they say within organizations where, they either won't show up or, they won't go that extra mile as the older generations are used to. And it's interesting when you say about from the needs perspective, right? The older generation is about sustenance, safety, and then where else it's kind of like the different generations are going up the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Right? Yeah. So do you see this trend continuing on?
That's interesting because we're already at the peak of the Maslow's hierarchy. The only way to go is down after that, right? And one of the reasons why it keeps going up is because the earlier generations are providing what is needed. Like if you live in modern day Malaysia today, especially in the urban areas, right? I don't think you'll ever grow hungry. There's always food. I don't think you worry about your safety because there's always safety, right? There's no worry about connection because for the younger generation, connection is just a click away on their phone, right? So as the generations provide the lower needs, the younger generations require less of that, and they're focused on the higher levels of needs. So I don't know where it's going to go after this,
Right.
but at this juncture, it's there lah. Maybe where it goes next is AI.
Yeah.
Matrix take over the world.
Yeah,
The Matrix.
and the chaos that will ensue.
Hey, but I just want to address something. You said one of the complaints, talking about the needs and all that, and based on what you said, is one of the needs is for the younger generation is to be heard. They feel like they're not heard.
Yeah. A lot of the younger generation in the workforce, one of the main complaint is their voice is not heard. They're not being acknowledged. There's a lot of move now to instill psychological safety in the workplace.
Right.
a lot of times we have this quiet quitting, or we call it abandonment. They're abandoning their jobs because they don't feel appreciated, they don't feel heard, they don't feel, they don't feel connected.
It's because the older generation, technically we didn't get all that. It's do your work or get fired. More or less that. But how do we address this in a way for the older generation? Because I know they hear. It's just they don't acknowledge we hear you. And so does one address that?
I think it's a lot of are the older generation willing to change some of the policies. I'll give you an example. We've been talking about work from home.
Yep.
To the older generation,
Must turn on camera.
but to the young generation, they are talking about 24/7 connected to the workplace anyway.
Right.
If you think about it, right, most people, 8 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, you may still get messages from the boss. And very often we will still respond. I mean, unless you are very disengaged, right? Unless you are really a very disengaged employee, right? You get a message from your manager, from a supervisor, you still respond, right? A lot of people, they go home, they have a family time, and then when the kids go to sleep, they still work. So we are actually looking at people working outside of the office hours at home anyway. So why not we adopt faster, maybe a result-based measurement rather than, are they sitting in front of the office? At the same time, you also see a lot of young people in the office and they're on their Facebook.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're basing it purely on working hours, I can be in the office, I'm on my Facebook 24/7, and what are you going to do?
True.
Right? Or, like in Malaysia, you can just take a survey anytime. All organization, same thing is going to happen. They come into office 8:30. They don't start really thinking until 10:30. Right? The first 2 hours like coffee break lah, check email lah, Yeah, and
go live on TikTok.
Go live. And there's actually a whole reason behind it, a scientific reason behind it. It's mainly because our working hours, our time hours,
Right.
is following Sabah Sarawak time.
Yep.
Our sunset, sunrise, and all of that is screwing up with us, right?
Yeah.
So people don't actually wake up until about 10:30. And a typical Malaysian, 12:30 makan lunch.
Yeah.
And lunchtime, what do we eat? We whack all the nasi kandar lah, nasi lemak lah.
No, our fault. Food is good.
Food is good. Lots of gravy, lots of curry. We come back 2 to 3:30 cannot work. 3:30 start work, 4:30 pack bag. So how?
Yeah.
So
and
I
then
would
transit time.
transit time. Yeah, I would rather look at, okay lah, I give you KPI. You go and do a KPI. I don't care what time you do lah. You need the resources from the company and come and do lah, because some things you need like studio testing or whatever. Kan? Other than that, work from home. I think the youngsters will appreciate it a lot more, and you have no issue of abandonment lah, because they are not in the office anyway.
So a lot of adapting, and I think it's interesting to see that as you mentioned, as we go up we are at the tip of the hierarchy of needs, right? And typically this sort of environment, in a very safe environment, as they say, good times create weak people, right? Right? And then weak people creates bad times, and then bad times create strong people, right? Yeah, and then the cycle just goes on and on and on, right? So are you hopeful of a brighter future, or do you think we will be stuck in that cycle?
Actually, if you look at it, what I teach in my leadership program is the Maslow's hierarchy is not based on, or rather, let me rephrase that. The generations are not based on the age or the year they're born. It's based on the year where the country moved out from strife, right?
Okay.
Because if you look at World War II, for Malaysia, after World War II, we still had the communist insurgency.
Correct.
So technically, our baby boomers are people born towards the tail end of 1960s, 1970s. That generation should be our boomer generation.
Oh.
So it will not follow a specific year, because the years are following US,
Right.
But we are not. Our war just ended. There's insurgency and all, ended in the 70s. Cambodia, for example, if you go to Cambodia today, the young people are very hungry. They act exactly like our boomers would, because their war ended in 1990s, right? So in order for us to reverse the cycle again, we have to go to war.
Oh dear.
What kind of solution is that?
Okay. As we come to the tail end.
What a way to end the show! We're going to war. No. But I'm hoping hard times create smart people.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
we adapt differently and use the powers that we have and become better things.
Yeah.
But you know what? I wish I can sit down here and talk more hours and hours and hours, because that's how we are.
Yeah.
If you sit down, I can speak 3 hours with you. But time is time.
And so
Go ahead.
I've got 2 last questions for you. Okay, one, what is that device that you have on? And finally, what is your final message to the future leaders?
Okay. The device is actually a ionizer. I didn't realize I still had it on. Because during the pandemic, everybody's worried about that, right? So I got the ionizer on because during training, I have to take off my mask because the students have to see my lips, right?
Yep.
So I had the ionizer on. Even with the ionizer, I had COVID a few times. So not sure whether it works or not.
Okay. And your last message to future leaders.
I think right now, the world is actually in a very interesting precipice. And we are probably in a place where the past history of how things are cannot predict what's coming next. So whatever you envision is possible, go for it, because it is possible.
Yes, and you will be creating the future. So thank you very much, Soo Hoo, for joining us. How can people connect with you?
That's an interesting question. I think you can log into any of my social media, Soo Hoo Master Trainer, because Soo Hoo is actually my surname. So the Master Trainer allows you to identify me easier.
All right.
Yep. Okay, so with that, join. You can also find the links in our show notes, in our descriptions, and we hope to have you on in future sessions.
And you know what? Here's the thing. Everyone watching, please put it in the comments. We would love to read. What's your future like? Tell us. Tell us in the comments. What do you think your future is like? Love to hear that.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. See you all.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.